Hi, today we are going to talk about writing thematic statements. This is a really important concept that we will use for the rest of the year with every single text that we read. To write a thematic statement, we're going to start by using several abstract words to state the principal ideas of the work. Abstract words describe concepts or ideas that exist only in our mind, like social status, ritual, defeat, alienation, freedom, prejudice, and ambition. We can see a particular man who is ambitious, like Macbeth, but the idea of ambition is abstract. These are your level 2 concepts that you worked on when you were doing the close reading steps. I want you to couple these notions or abstract ideas together with comments that reflect the author's observations about topics like human nature, the human condition, or human motivation. And so what we are ultimately looking for is the answer to the question, what does the author believe that it means to be human? What does the author believe about the human condition as is presented in the author's text? When we write thematic statements, it's important that we follow the rules of writing a thematic statement. And so there are 4 different things that I want you to avoid. These are common mistakes that people make when they write thematic statements. First of all, theme is not moral. A moral tells us how to behave or what to do. It's meant to be instructive, and themes do not instruct. A theme observes, weighs, and considers the action of a character. Theme avoids judgment. It does not judge what a character should or should not do, and therefore does not instruct us, the reader, as to what we should or should not do. Therefore, words like ought and should or should not are not appropriate in a thematic statement. Also, themes are not short cliches or bumper sticker ideas. Themes reflect the complexity of life, and it is echoed in that work of literature that you have read. And so when you create a thematic statement, you have to look at the complexity of the situation that was presented in the text, because then it will reflect the complexity of life. Also, themes do not refer to specific names or events of the plot. Theme does not summarize a work, although it does reflect what happens in the work. Theme, when you write that thematic statement, will drop character names and titles. It won't even mention the author. However, it will use more general terms like parents, leaders, society, or adolescence in general observation of the human experience. I find that it's also really important because we're talking about humans as a collective whole and what it means to be human. We are part of that. And so I often find myself using the first person pronoun us and we and our when we're talking about thematic statements as it relates to the human race as a whole. And I'm gonna show you what that looks like. Also, themes avoid absolute terms because life is not black and white. There's a lot of gray area in life. So we want to avoid saying anyone, all, none, everything, everyone, because they indicate really sloppy thinking. Like there's no exceptions to the rules, and really there's exceptions all the time. So when we write thematic statements, we want to use terms like often or sometimes or frequently because that provides a more realistic view of the variety of human experiences. Keep in mind, there's a lot of gray area out there. So life is not black and white, neither is a theme. Using a thematic statement successfully is going to be really important as we move forward. The thematic statement rarely stands alone. It functions best as a closing observation, making the most general observation about these specific ideas in a work. As the first sentence of the conclusion, the thematic statement mirrors the abstract ideas of the thesis. Typically, the AP student is asked to show specifically how a character, pattern, plot, or device helps to create theme. So you'll be discussing why, for example, laughter that's created is thoughtful and how it contributes to the meaning of the work. And that's underlined there because this is College Board's term. When they give you a prompt and they talk about the meaning of the work as a whole, they are in fact referring to theme. And so here you'll see there the bullet points in the middle are just different examples of how College Board might word a prompt to let you know that they want you to talk about theme or thematic idea. Really good AP students will allude to those abstract ideas in the opening paragraph and then throughout their essay, but then they'll provide the fully developed thematic statement in the closing paragraph. And we are going to work on that this year. And that's what this is here. So this is the top triangle is your intro, the bottom triangle is your conclusion in an essay. Your thesis is the most pointed and detailed sentence, and it describes the essay's purpose. It goes here at the very end of the intro. And then you have an inverted image, and so the conclusion is the exact opposite. We have the most detailed part of the conclusion, it's going to be here, but it's this abstract idea about the work's meaning, and then you're going to pull back out to be more general as you go. I'll show you examples of how this works as we continue working this semester. This is a theme list that I use every year. There are so many different theme lists out there on the internet. This is one that I've been using for years after vetting quite a few of them. And you guys are lucky because this year I've actually typed it up, so it's a nice clean copy. But I want you to kind of look over this. These are different thematic ideas that we'll talk about throughout the school year. So here's some of my favorites. Betrayal, coming of age, and I'm over here on the left-hand side. Ambition and self-improvement, the changing idea of family, civilization versus savagery, the effects of guilt, the power of storytelling. Here's a personal favorite, it went away, the restricted role of women in society. There you go, down there bottom left. Here in the middle, identity, and you're going to see their top middle, identity, the importance of establishing identity, identity and society, and the idea of identity are all very similar and yet distinctly different. So we're going to talk about those as the year goes on. The nature of evil and the nature of tragedy, very interesting themes there. Down towards the bottom, ambition, courage, duty, fear, freedom, truth, loyalty, suffering. Can you see how all of those are present in the things they carried? And then over on the right, jealousy and suspicion are quite interesting. Appearance and versus reality is important. Traditions and customs, cruelty, poverty, oppression, regret, violence, family struggles. Anyway, those are all really common themes that we see. There's one here on this list that I can promise you is in virtually every single text that you might read that at least would be at the AP level. You want to know what that one theme is that's in literally everything I can think of? It's appearance versus reality. This one is in every text that you read. We'll talk about this one as we go throughout the year. Now, here are some sample thematic statements that I actually wrote this afternoon, and I'm hoping that you'd be familiar with each of these texts. Antigone, the theme is responsibility. That's the one I chose. Here's my thematic statement. Our most sacred responsibilities are to those we love and often come with the heaviest burden, provide the most fulfilling experience, and push us to extremes. Here's from Romeo and Juliet. The theme is the power of love. The thematic statement is, though at times surprising and unexpected, love can propel us forward in life's journey and may force us to overcome seemingly impossible obstacles. And finally, the Poisonwood Bible. The theme is freedom. Here's my thematic statement. Personal instability, often a result or reflection of societal instability, can often push us to strive for security, independence, and freedom through the strength and support of those surrounding us whom we love and trust. So those are just some sample thematic statements to show you where we're going with this. Here's a word of warning. Theme and thesis are different. The thesis answers the prompt. It focuses on the author and what the author is doing with the text. The theme focuses on the thematic idea presented in the text. They are different. You will likely allude to the theme in your thesis, and throughout your essay you should, but you will likely not include a full thematic statement until the conclusion. And what we're working on today is how do we develop a full thematic statement that is effective. So here's the process we'll go through for determining thematic statements. Number one, you're going to review the theme list and determine 5 to 7 themes that you found within whatever text we read. And then you determine the one theme you want to focus on. And then you ask yourself some questions. What does the author believe about that thematic idea as it relates to all of humanity? What about this thematic idea can I see reflected in the world around me and in the text? And based on the text, what is the truth about what it means to be human in relation to this theme? Then you will write your thematic statement by following the rules. So be sure that it doesn't instruct. It shouldn't use the word should or should not. It should reveal the complexity of the situation, so you're going to avoid bumper sticker ideas. You're also going to avoid referring to the title, author, characters, or any specific settings in your thematic statement because you want to be inclusive of the human experience, and you may use the pronouns us and we and our. And I do want you to acknowledge the gray area, so you're going to avoid using words like everyone, all, and none. You should use qualifiers like often and frequently. So we're going to practice with Toy Story because I think this is probably a movie that most of us have seen. So here's our theme list, and so I actually went through this process as I was putting this together for you guys. I went through and I selected the 7 themes that I think maybe are the most important themes that I would see in Toy Story. Certainly not, this is not like an end-all be-all list. There would probably be more like 50 themes that we see, but here's 7. First of all, the struggle for self-definition, the changing idea of family, the effects of guilt, the importance of establishing identity, rivalry, loyalty, appearance versus reality. So that was the first step. I went through and I really considered the list, and I considered what I had read, or in this case watched, and I selected up to 7. So now I'm going to pick one to really focus in on, and I have selected the importance of establishing identity. And so we're going to write our thematic statement for Toy Story. So if I'm thinking about that theme, the importance of establishing identity, I think about what happens in this movie. Well, Woody's identity is entirely based on his position as Andy's favorite, and he starts to question who he is without this identity. Buzz's identity is based on a false, though authentic, belief in who or what he is, and is entirely embedded in the idea of his job as a space ranger. And so when this illusion crumbles, Buzz also crumbles because he has lost his identity. Both characters must establish their own personal separate identities in order to be happy with themselves, have successful relationships, and have the ability to move forward with life. Both characters must examine the complexity of their identity and look beyond a surface level single attribute identification. For example, Woody saying, "I'm someone's favorite, that's who I am," and Buzz saying, "I am my job, I am a space ranger, and that's who I am." They have to look beyond that. And they both must become really comfortable with this new, more complex identity that they have discovered about themselves. And so here's my thematic statement for Toy Story. An authentic yet misguided belief about personal identity being established by a single defining characteristic can lead to the exploration and revelation of a new, more complex identity, which, when established and accepted, can lead to a more satisfying sense of self, and healthier relationships with others. So you see the complexity here. This isn't a thematic statement that says it's important to establish your identity, because that's just a bumper sticker, and that's not showing the complexity of the story itself or the complexity of the way that life works. Also notice that I didn't instruct. I didn't say what should happen. I say this can happen. And I do use those qualifiers. It can lead. It can lead. And I'm also, excuse me, I'm also being really inclusive of everybody within the human experience. So this isn't limited to just the characters in Toy Story. I don't mention Toy Story by name in my thematic statement at all. This could apply to anyone, anywhere. So when you write a thematic statement for the things they carried, which is what you're going to do next for your activity for the day, you're going to use the theme list that is provided in the daily folder to think through the themes that are presented in this text, and then you're going to complete the Schoology assignment. Please reach out to me if you have any questions. Have a great day. Bye, guys.